how relevant is the issue of extremism, in fact, in online gaming platforms today? So can you give us perhaps some recent examples so that we can perhaps grasp what is really the level of threat we are talking about?
Generally, I try to break this down into two broad categories. The type of organic threats that emerge out of online social spaces, of which gaming is a huge one, and the strategic use case, which is where violent extremists or targeted hate organizations directly try to use video games and kind of adjacent communities for their own purposes. So on the organic side of that, we see things like various degrees and forms of online toxicity that create fertile ecosystems for various types of extremism. So recent surveying that we've done, for example, found that around a third of respondents across 7 countries were exposed to images or symbols promoting extremism in games. 38% saw people endorsing violence against a targeted group. We've also seen people reporting widespread harassment, widespread misogyny, and targeted violent misogyny, which we know is correlated to support for violent extremism in many settings. So we see this as kind of online organic toxicity that takes place. We also see on the strategic side, the production of video games and mods by violent extremists and targeted hate organizations. So my colleague, Emily Thompson, and I just came up with a database of 30 years worth of extremist and terrorist related games and modifications for games. We've documented 155 of these over the last 30 years. They span the gamut from far-right, white supremacist and neo-Nazi games to jihadist games, to games created by Hezbollah, and then things like Black Pill or school massacre ideation games that are kind of ideological hybridization of different forms of extremism. So we see like the actual creation of games. Then there's the gamification of violence. So the use of strategic elements in attacks, so live streaming, for example, on Twitch, which is a gaming adjacent platform. That, of course, started with the Christchurch attacker, but then has been duplicated by all manner of far-right and acceleration attackers up to, I believe, yesterday, there was another live stream attack. So this continues to kind of proliferate. The iconography in that is designed to mirror first-person shooters. It puts people in what we call a play frame. So when you're viewing it, it feels like you're inside of the game itself. It's immersive. And we've seen attackers directly referencing that kind of immersive game-like element as part of their own radicalization. So the Bratislava attacker, for example, referenced that in his own manifesto. So we see this as a successful tactic to engage audiences, to draw them into the narrative, and then to give them little things to hook onto, right? Effective propaganda hooks in the game-like elements of the gamification.